is Marshall. Can everybody hear me? I've been losing my voice since last Saturday night. And I had 2 speaker commitments this week. And I said, well, maybe God is trying to tell me I don't need to speak. But I introduced myself as a chronic alcoholic, not to be different, but because the literature tells me I have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. And hopefully you'll get to see that throughout my story. Do a little house cleaning. My sobriety date is January 23rd, 2017. My home group is the Littleton Somerville group. We meet every Monday night at 8 p.m. for a closed discussion meeting. And the first Monday of the month, we read from the 12 and 12. This year we're doing the steps. And we have a speaker meeting every Saturday night at 8 p.m. I have a sponsor, and my sponsor has a sponsor. Now, I'm supposed to tell you a little bit about what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. Well, my story could be very short. What it used to be like, I drank. What happened? I got drunk. What it's like today, I'm a grateful, recovering chronic alcoholic. I also can sum up my drinking. I only drank 3 times. Good times, bad times, and all the time. So with that, let me get into my story. I was born and raised here, right up towards Lemon Spring area. I'm country. Grew up. I was the baby of 4, 3 boys and 1 girl. And I found out at an early age, when I could understand, that I was literally the black sheep of the family because I had a different father. So I sensed that I had to prove myself. I had to prove that I belonged and I fitted in. However, I did not, I can't say that I came from a dysfunctional family, although we were poor. And I don't mean poor, I mean we were poor. But I had everything I needed. And my mother did the best she could with what she had. I also grew up in a liquor house. 10, 12 years old, I'm pouring drinks and serving drinks to people that today they were alcoholics, but I can't say they were alcoholics. And that gave me a bad taste or a bad look on drinking because I saw what alcohol did to people when they drank. And I did not want to be like that. My teenage years, I wasn't one. I mean, I remember my first high or drunk. Yes, I was about 9 or 10. And I was sipping. My mother's friend had a pint of Kentucky Gentleman. He was drinking that with Coke. And I asked if I could have some. And I tasted it. Put the Coke in it. It was sweet, so it tasted good. And I continued to drink. And later that night, my mother was taking us to get a haircut. And I told my mother I didn't feel too good. And she told me I was drunk. Well, that wasn't something that I wanted to do again, so I didn't really break down any doors to go do it again. As a teenager in my house, I did okay in school. I didn't play sports. I was too small to play football, and I was too short to play basketball. But I did run track. I did the one thing that I was good at, which was running. And my junior, senior prom, I was the only one in my group that had alcohol there. I had a 6-pack of beer. I didn't drink it, but it was for show because I was trying to fit in. We got out of high school. I started working in high school. I had a full-time job working in Sanford at the Sackle Oil plant. And I worked a full shift. Supposedly, they would only let you work a half a shift if you were still in school, but somehow I got on. I was working a full shift and going to school. After graduation, I stayed at that job. And as time went on, I had to go be examined. Went to Raleigh. Me and a good friend of mine, and he didn't tell me until afterwards how to fail the test. And I passed, he failed. And I asked him, I said, how'd you fail? He said, well, he had put baking soda on his arm so his blood pressure would be up. He failed. So the recruit, they told me there that I was going to be drafted because this was during the Vietnam era, and I was going to be drafted. But the Army had come out with this new thing, you could go on delayed entry. I could enlist today, and I could wait up to 6 months to go in. That was in August, and I had planned to go to the beach for Labor Day. And I told him, I said, as long as I'm home for Labor Day, I'll go anytime after that. So the 15th of September, I went in. And as I said, it was during the Vietnam era. My basic training was cut short, 2 weeks. Instead of 8 weeks, I did 6 weeks. And my advanced training, I did the full 8 weeks because I was in that MOS that I was going to be infantry, so I had to be fully trained because I was going to the jungle. 2 weeks prior to graduating, they started pulling troops out, and I was diverted to Germany. Now, when I got to Germany, that's the first time, other than going to Washington, D.C., and Maryland, that's the furthest I'd ever been out of North Carolina. And it was the first time that I'd ever been on a plane and flew. But when I got to Germany, I did not like it, especially when they told me I was going to be there for 3 years. And the unit was getting ready to go to the field for 25 days. And my platoon sergeant told me that I didn't have to worry about it. I had to get in process. I'm getting in process, and they came and got me and told me I had to go get my field gear because I was going to the field. So I ended up going to the field. But there was two things that impressed me about Germany. My platoon sergeant impressed me. He was a sergeant first class C7. And I set my goal right there, and that's what I wanted to be, a sergeant first class C7. The second thing that impressed me, and I set a goal, his running partner. I admired the way that man drank. And I hooked up with him. Now, I always trying to fit in. I didn't hang with my age group. I hung with the older ones. And he was perfect, my idol. I wanted to drink just like he drank. So we would go to the package store 11 o'clock when it opened, get a fifth old Granddad 100 proof, get in the car, figure out where we're going to drink it at. He'd take a swallow and I'd take a swallow, and this time he got another bottle. Right then, I started drinking alcoholically. We would go through 3 of those between 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock and time to get off. And then we go to the club and do some serious drinking. And I did that. I didn't know anything about warning signs. I didn't know anything about footwork. I didn't know none of that stuff until I come in Alcoholics Anonymous. But it should have been a sign to me when I started waking up in the morning with dry heaves. It should have been a sign to me when I'd wake up in the morning and I'm shaking and I can't eat. And I would not sit at the table with my 3-year-old son present because I did not want him to see me trying to eat, beating the plate up. But that didn't deter me. What it did was, maybe that old granddad is the problem. So I switched over to Bacardi. Drank it the same way. Now, my military career advanced real fast. Within 23 months, I went from a private to a sergeant. That platoon sergeant had rotated back to the States, and I wrote him. I kept in contact with him. And when I wrote him and he saw that I had made sergeant, when he wrote me back, he said, "I see you made sergeant. I guess your liquor bill has went up." There again, a warning sign. I might have a problem. But, you know, it's just like they say, everybody else see it before the alcoholic sees it. Well, I spend my going on 3 years over there. I make E5, and I don't know, I attribute my alcoholism to my advancement because under the influence, I was a strapped soldier, had all the military knowledge. We used to get guard duty a lot, and we had a thing where you stand guard mount, and the best dress and the person with the most military knowledge would be picked. And they call it Colonel's Orderly. You would get out of guard duty that night, and you would get the next day off. My first sergeant had a policy: if you made that 3 times in a row, you would come off the duty roster for 30 days. I made it 5 times in a row because I would stand guard mount for other people. They would pay me $20 to stand guard mount. I'd make the man. I would get the day off the next day. And if something happened and they had to use their Colonel's Orderly, whoever was on the roster would have to go pull that duty. I did my job. I went out and made Colonel's Orderly. So that was more drinking for me. I come back to the States, and I ended up in Colorado. I thought Colorado was the place to be. I got there and they told me I couldn't participate in physical training because I was at a high altitude. And I had to be up there 30 days to get acclimatized. I was looking for a car. Oh, by the way, I'm an old school, I'm a hot rod. I like the old muscle cars. I was looking for a car, and one of the guys I ran into took me to this car lot, and I saw this 69 Roadrunner, and I liked it. 383 Magnum, 4-speed. So I got that. All of a sudden, they needed to have a promotion board for staff sergeant. And at that time, the requirements, you had to have 4 years, I think it was 4 years minimum time in service, 6 years time in service. I didn't have 6 years, so I figured they said that I was going up. I said, well, you know I ain't got 6 years. That's okay, we'll waive you. I thought they waived my time in service, but after I found out, after I passed the board, that they waived my education because I only had a high school diploma. So here I am, moving up again. Liquor bill getting higher. Now I'm a staff sergeant. 4 years, 11 months. I'm a staff sergeant. And something happened one day, and as a good sergeant, you're supposed to know your people well. I'm supposed to know everybody in my squad, name, rank, serial number. Well, this particular day, I'm downtown, and I got 4 guys in the car with me from my squad. And I got now I've switched over from Bacardi to Smirnoff, because they say vodka don't smell. Switched over to Smirnoff, and I thought during that time the right temperature for the vodka was 103 degrees, because that's what it was when I pulled that ball out from under my seat. Anyway, I got my ball, and they got their things, they got their dry goods, and I'm showing out through town. Every stoplight, I'm peeling rubbers, snatching gears, headed back on post. And I look in the mirror and I see some blue lights coming. I say, well, he's not after me, so I do the right thing. I'll slow down. I slowed down, come to find out he was after me. And he comes up to the one and he says, you know how fast you were going? I lied. I said, my speed officer said 85. He said, I clocked you at 105 or 55. You mind stepping out the car? He took everybody's ID and he said, tell me who you have in the car with you. Being a good NCO, being a good soldier, I know my people. I rattle off everybody's name, rank, serial number. He said, well, I'm gonna have to take you downtown and do a breathalyzer. He took me downtown, and the desk sergeant was going to administer the test, and I'm really feeling it. I'm gonna pull rank on him. He's a sergeant, I'm a staff sergeant. Not realizing that my staff sergeant, my Army rank had no input on civilian. So he administered the breathalyzer, and he said, if this stops at a 0.7, you're good. Stopped at a 0.27. He said, you double drunk. So I get bailed out. My friend come get me. We stopped to get my car, which was right outside the gate. Had I just pulled on through the gate, I would have got away because state police couldn't come on post. So we stopped to get my car. He drives my car on post, I drive his car. Go over to my barracks, and I'm in the parking lot, showing out. Here come the MPs. And they come over, and I said, why are you effing with me? I just had it with the civilian police, now you messing with me. I want to go in my barracks and go to bed. They said, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to put an APB out. If we see this car again, we're going to lock you up. I didn't live in the barracks, I lived in the housing area. They leave, I get back in the car, go out the back gate to a bar and drink some more. Now, footwork. I did not get a lawyer. Court date comes up. I go to court, and I didn't have my ticket, so I escalated at the front desk. I said, do I need my ticket? She said, what are you charged with? I say, speeding and DUI. She said, how you gonna plead? I say, guilty. She said, you don't want to do that. You plead guilty, that lady judge gonna take your license today. What you want to do is ask for a continuance, get your lawyer, and try to get it amended to a DUAI, driving while ability impaired. Sound like a good idea to me. I plead not guilty, get another court date. Still ain't done no home or footwork. court date comes up. I go see the prosecutor that morning and I tell him I want to try to get it amended to a DUAI. Little did I know my actions that night, me being that way, all belligerent to the desk sergeant and stuff. Little did I know that state trooper's report that he wrote up on me was a damn good report. He wrote in his report that I said, my speed officer said 85. Although he clocked me at 105, I was not driving reckless. How can you be driving 105 drunk and not be reckless? He said, although I was driving that fast, I had full control of the car. I was very cooperative. So the prosecutor said, well, I'll accept that. So we get in front of the judge, and the judge, he tells the judge that he will accept the amendment. And she said, well, okay, that will be $50 for the DUAI. And it will be $1 for every mile over the speed limit, which will be $30. Well, 85 and a 55. And an $8 court cost. Cost me $88. And being the good alcoholic I am, what I do, I go out that night celebrating and get my second drunk driving award. In the meantime, I get 2 letters. I get one letter from the state of Colorado and I get a letter from the Department of the Army. Letter from the state of Colorado said I had to go to drunk driving school. The letter from the Department of the Army said, congratulations, you have been selected to attend drill sergeant school, Fort Dix, New Jersey. I said, man, drill sergeant? I remember my drill sergeants. Seemed like they never went home. This is going to interfere with my drinking. But I can't argue with Uncle Sam. So I go see the people for the drunk driving school, and I asked the guy, I say, what if I get orders to leave before my class date come up? He said, no problem, you go. If you ever come back to Colorado, you pay a $25 reinstatement fee and then you go to court. That was in 1976 and I ain't been back to Colorado since. So I proceed to go to drill sergeant school. I found out being a drill sergeant didn't interfere with my drinking. I found out I can still perform. I'm making drill sergeant of the cycle. I'm going up with interviews and taking pictures with 2-star general post commander. But you know, something happened. By this time, I done switched over to gym. And you know, New Jersey always said it was the first state. And my motto was, yeah, you're first and highest in insurance, you're the highest in this, you're the highest in that. But New Jersey, they don't take too kindly with you driving on their highway drunk. So you get a DWI there, it doesn't make any difference whether you're found guilty or not. That's a $3,000 fine. Costs you $1,000 for 3 years. So I get my first drunk driving award in New Jersey. They tell me I need to go to this drunk school. I go to that drunk school and I get introduced to AA. And I started going to meetings, but I was around AA. I didn't come in AA. I came in here and learned all the lingo. Once I got the lingo down, I was good to go. And That first drunk driving award in New Jersey, consequences weren't bad. $1,000 a year for 3 years. Whatever it cost me for the lawyer then. So I continued my drinking. And I was coming around AA. But when I came around AA, something stuck. 1987, I picked up a 1-year chip, Central Carolina Group. 1988, I picked up a 1-year chip, Central Carolina Group. Meanwhile, I'm in New Jersey, but I come home quite often. And some of the things were beginning to come into my mind, but I just couldn't seem to put the effort forward to do those things. The seed was planted. And it took me 10 more years to actually get into this program. That was around the time when I got that 4th drunk driving award in New Jersey. I don't know whether the consequences this time was bad enough, and I don't know which one caused me to see that I needed to do something. Well, there was the judge, and by the way, that judge that tried me on my 4th drunk driving award was my lawyer for my 1st drunk driving award. But when he said 87 days in jail, and you will not drive in this state for the next 12 years. Doesn't matter which one of those consequences it was enough to let me know. So I came into AA. And I remember the first meeting I went to. I get out the car and I see all these old guys standing out front. And as I walked up, the first thing out of their mouth was, "We've been waiting on you." Hey, you waiting on me? You don't even know me. We've been waiting on you. We meet here every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. You show up early, you stay late. Show up early for what? Well, for the first month, you're going to stand outside that door and you're going to shake everybody's hand and walk in. I said, well, how's that going to keep me sober? As long as you're shaking hands, you're not bending your elbow. After those 30 days was up, they said, you're going to empty ashtrays, you're going to empty butt cans, and you're going to wash out coffee cups and all that. All right, how's that going to keep me sober? As long as you're in here doing that, you're not in the bar. They did everything they could. And I started listening to them. They had some big words for me that I had not been used to. Words like resentment, commitment, footwork. What? Yeah, footwork. They said, you see those steps on the wall? I said, yeah. They say the elevator's broke, you gotta take the steps. Okay. You got a sponsor yet? Nope. Don't worry about it. The old guy said, don't worry about it, I'm your sponsor. All right. Well, you know, something happened. I guess it took me back to my younger years of gravitating to the older people. I started gravitating to those old timers because they didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. They told me what I needed to hear. Oh yeah, the other thing they told me at that first meeting, you come in, you sit your ass up front. You don't say nothing for 90 days because you don't know anything. Take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. And they say, don't sit in the middle and don't sit in the back. That's the relapse section. Okay, I didn't know what that meant, but hey. When I came in then, I was losing a good state job. Oh, by the way, after 16 years in the military, I got out. They didn't put me out, they just told me I couldn't stay. And I started working in Department of Corrections, so here it is. I done drank away a federal job. Now I'm drinking away a state job. I'm losing this job, I'm losing a wife, and I'm losing a home that I bought. And I remember going into the meetings because old timers told me, if it's gonna cause you to drink, you share it in a meeting. So I go to meetings every day. Oh, I want my wife back, I want my wife back. Old timer stood up one day and he said, if you're lucky, you might get her back. But if you're really, really, really lucky, you won't. I didn't want to hear that. But it was what I needed to hear. And then I started looking and reading in the book, and I come across that, and there's no coincidence in AA. There's no coincidence when he told me that, and I'm reading the big book the next day. I was reading it said, job or no job, wife or no wife, you can get sober. And I did. I got sober, and I stayed sober for 16 years. And my life was good. The ironic thing about that was when I lost that house, I had gotten a letter saying that if I find a place and be out of that house by a certain date, they would give me $1,600 to relocate. And I come in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and a guy say, well, my uncle works for a realtor, and sometimes they have properties to rent. Go by and see him. I went by and said, I wanted to make an appointment with the realtor. They set me up with the realtor, their choice, not mine. And this lady calls me and tells me, we don't rent, we sell. However, I have 2 pieces of property, and one's available. If you want to go by and look at it, then let me know, and then if you want it, come by and we'll see what we can do. I went by and looked at it, and I went in and I told her, I said, I really like it, and it will be just right for me. Now I'm coming out of a 4-bedroom house going into a 2-bedroom. I had to have 2 bedrooms because even though I was divorced, I had custody of my daughter. My daughter grew up in AA with me. Imagine that, alcoholic like me getting custody. And she paid me child support. Well, anyway, I go in to see this lady and I tell her, I say, ma'am, I'm gonna be honest with you right up front. This is my situation. And I told her, I said, look, I'm in recovery. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm trying to straighten out my life. Now, they told me if I'm out by a certain date, that they would give me $1,600 to relocate. My question to you is, could you allow me to move in and wait until I get that check? And she was very blunt. She said, sir, it's the first time I ever laid eyes on you. I don't know you, but talking to you over the phone and talking to you now, I feel like you're trying to do the right thing. It was 16 weeks before I got that check. That woman never called me once and asked me, where's my rent? God done for me, but I couldn't do for myself. So I got very involved in AA, and I left New Jersey, come down to Sanford, come back home. Got down here and didn't stay long, moved to Reedsville. Stayed in Reedsville to 2015. And while I was in Reedsville, I got very involved because I did what they told me to do. Anytime you go to a new place, you go to a meeting, you tell them you're new, you're looking for a home group, you're looking for a sponsor. So I got a sponsor up there. I had a sponsor here in Sanford. I got a sponsor up there, and I continued to work the program for Alcoholics Anonymous. Notice I didn't say work my program. My program got me here. I worked the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got involved. I got service positions, and I was DCM for the Area 22. And my job transferred me to a different town. And I didn't know where AA was in that town. I went back to what Bill called those alibis. I didn't know where any meetings was, so I didn't go to any meetings. But not 8 miles from where I was living, I had went and spoke at different meetings in there. So it wasn't I didn't know where meetings were. My alibi was I didn't know where any meetings at in this town. Now, that was me getting comfortable. The one thing that I did not pick up on when I came in here and came around and learned all those slogans, I always said, meeting makers make it. I used to hate that because I was making meeting and I went back out, but I wasn't working the program. The one thing that I didn't pick up on is it works if you work it. So I got comfortable. I was in relapse for 1.5 years. And then I picked up that drink again. And if you're new and think that you might not be in the right place, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to go back out there. I went out there for you. It is not any better. When I picked back up, I did not go get a bottle or pint or fifth. I got a half a gallon and a 12-pack. And that is the way my drinking started back up, even worse than it was when I stopped. And for 2 years, that's the way I drank. I would get up in the morning. I had to have that drink to stop shaking. I would drink all day. I would go to bed drinking. I would wake up in the middle of the night drinking. I have a 15-year-old granddaughter who was 15 years old before she ever saw me drunk. And for those 2 years, she did not want to be around me. I was so bad, I made the decision to go into rehab. And when I made that decision to go into rehab, it was, I don't know. I just went into rehab, and when I came out of rehab, going into rehab probably was the best thing I did, because once I got into rehab, the first day I was there, they told me I had to go take a chest x-ray, and they thought that I had lung cancer. By the time I left that rehab, it was pretty much confirmed. They wanted to do the treatment there in Salisbury. And I said, no, Salisbury, I'm 125 miles from Salisbury. Transferred to Durham. So I ended up getting my treatment in Durham. But I had to go through their department up there to be sure. I came down to Primary Purpose one Thursday night, and as I pulled in the parking lot, I get a phone call. It was the doctor from Durham. And he said, it's confirmed. You have stage 3B cancer, lung cancer. That moment, I felt like it's a liquor store right down the street. Go down and get a bottle, go home, forget it. But instead, I went in that meeting, And when I came out of that meeting, it felt like the world had been lifted off my shoulders. At that point in time, I made a decision. Thy will, not mine, be done. I turn it over to God and I let it go. Several people told me what I was going to be experiencing as I went through that treatment. My sponsor's wife had went through it, and he told me when she finished her treatment, she couldn't eat anything but ice for 3 months. My chemo doctor told me the first 2 weeks I would not feel any different, but the last 2 weeks I was going to be out of it. I went through 6 weeks of chemo and radiation treatment with the least amount of side effects. I had a little bit of diarrhea. And the last day of my radiation, when I got home that night, I felt something on my back and I thought it was a patch, and it was a little burn spot. That was all the effects I had from the treatment. And as of last Tuesday, I am 2 years cancer-free. Now, I get out of rehab, and I'm having problems with my leg. Not only do I get diagnosed I got cancer, now I gotta go get stents put in my leg. Well, as of last Thursday, 2 years, blood vessels open, blood flowing good. So I just turn it over to my higher power. And I don't like to say turn it over, I let it go. Because when I was coming into meetings whining about problems, old Tom asked me one day, what have you done about that problem? I said, I turned it over to God. He said, bullshit, all you did was turn it upside down. You got to let it go. So when I say thy will, not mine, be done, I let it go. I get out of God's way. Y'all better set the clocks up. That 15-year-old granddaughter is now 18. Been accepted into college, UNC in Chapel Hill. She wants to be around me today. I wasn't losing anything. Life was good. But what I had lost was my soul. And when I lost my soul, and my granddaughter said she didn't want to be around me, that was it for me. I had to do something. And she wants to be around me today. I got married when I was back out there. Don't get drunk and get married. I come in this program. When I went into treatment, my wife asked me, you think we're going to be able to make it when you get out of treatment? I said, I don't know. When I got out of treatment, I went back and got my sponsor that I had back in 2002. And he asked me, what was going on to cause you to pick up a drink? I said, nothing. My life was good. Wasn't worried about nothing. Didn't have a wife to worry about. Wasn't losing anything. He said, well, why you suppose you picked up that drink? And the only answer I could tell him was, because I wanted to. Nobody has ever forced a drink on me. No drink has ever jumped off that bar and went down my throat. I picked it up because I wanted to. And I remember they say, nobody get me drunk unless I want to get drunk. And can't nobody get me sober unless I want to get sober. I had to make that decision. That's why I would tell my oldest daughter, my wife says she has me wrapped around her tongue. She would call her, well, he's not eating. He's not this, he's not that. And she would tell her, why don't you tell him to go to rehab or something? She'd say, I can't tell him that. He have to tell himself that. Now, this is a daughter that did not grow up in my alcoholism. But, getting back to that wife, I told my sponsor, I said, I don't know, I'm not supposed. He treated me just like a newcomer because I was a newcomer. Because he told me, you don't speak for 90 days. Unless it's a newcomers meeting, that's your meeting, you can share all you want. And I told him I had shared in a meeting that he wasn't there. And he said, well, because the subject was something that I had experienced. And he said, well, that's good. He said, but if you share again, and it's not a newcomers meeting, or you met the newcomers meeting, if you share again, I want you to tell them you went back out after 16 years, because a newcomer might need to hear that. So I said, okay. But he also said, don't make no major decisions in the first year. My counselor in rehab told me, don't make no decisions in the first major decision. So after the year was up, I told my sponsor, I don't think we're going to make it. Well, you do what you need to do. And I told her, I said, look, one of us got to go. And she thought I was joking up until the day that I said I was moving. And I told her, I said, look, I'm not leaving to try to end the marriage. I'm leaving to try to save the marriage. And, you know, we still live apart, but we get along great. That's what it took for my relationship with her to stay, because I feel like that I had been by myself for so long. I was too set in my ways. And I wasn't used to living with somebody. But we have a good relationship today, and hopefully we're going to get back together. But, you know, this program, I can't say enough about it. And, you know, I was told 3 things. If you do 3 things, they'll always ask you back. They said, first you got to stand up. Then you got to speak up. And I hope I spoke up enough for everybody to hear me tonight. Then they say, you got to shut up. But before I shut up, I have to share something with you. And I always share this because this is something that has been very dear to me. And I have carried a copy of this in my wallet for 21 years. A friend in my home group in New Jersey had 8 years in the program, received some bad news, and she was cussing God. She called her sponsor, and her sponsor gave her this. And it goes like this. I asked God to take away my pride. God said no. It wasn't for him to take away, but for me to give up. I asked God to make my handicapped child whole. God said no. His spirit is whole. His body is only temporary. I asked God to grant me patience, and God said He said patience is a byproduct of tribulation. It isn't granted, it is earned. I asked God to give me happiness, and God said he gives blessing. Happiness is up to me. I asked God to spare me pain, and God said no. He said suffering draws you apart from worldly cares and draws you closer to me. I asked God to make my spirits grow. God said, no, you must grow on your own, but I will prune you to make you fruitful. I asked God for all things that I might enjoy life. God said, no, I will give you life that you may enjoy all things. I asked God if he loved me, and God said, yes. I asked God to help me love others as much as he loved me, and God said, oh, finally, you get the idea. Stop telling God how big your storm is. Instead, tell your storm how big God is. I'm a chronic alcoholic. My name is Marshall, and thank you for allowing me to share.